What? Wait. Hold up. What?
What do you mean, what?
I was like, wait, they only have 8 additional charge bonus? That's horrible.
Yeah, that's horrible. Why did you think it would take so long to talk about it? I hit record, by the way, so people are just going to get a weird intro of me laughing at nothing.
Okay.
Hi, everybody. We're here with Blood Penguins. So we did Empire. He is a well-known Empire, Bretonia, and Kislev main. I went rogue and did Bretonia on my own, but got to bring him back in for Kislev, because Kislev, unlike Bretonia, is actually complicated enough that I can't just half-ass my way through it. So we had to get an expert again. Bretonia is just horses go burr and you win, so, you know, pretty simple stuff there. Hey, Blood Penguin.
Hello.
All right, you know the drill because you just did the Empire one, which will come out before this. So this one I know is coming out later. So,
All right.
take it away as you need.
Oh, yeah, I guess we'll get right into it. Just starting with the general overview of Kislev. You've got a lot of armored infantry, and your main focus for this faction on winning is definitely going to be in your shooting and in your cavalry. Those are like your best ways to win fights. But going over the units, first going over the units, we're going to start with the lords. So the boyar is basically a melee lord. He's not great. Generally, you avoid him. He's like a baby Boris Ursus. Boris brings his anti-large, and he has frostbite attacks, whereas the boyar is just does everything worse than Boris. The Druzina is an interesting character. He's got nice range attacks. If you strip him all the way down, he can be an actually extremely cheap and somewhat efficient lord for just shooting. But the real way that you're going to make the rest of your army work, because it can get quite expensive quite quickly, is by taking a very cheap bare bones Frost Maiden or Ice Witch. So the Ice Witch Lord, Lore of Tempest and Lore of Ice are both okay lores of magic. Lore of Ice is good for Death Frost as a good Spirit Leech effect. Ice Maiden's Kiss is a decent slow. And Lore of Tempest has Hailstorm, which is just like a re-skinned Searing Doom. And Hawks of Mishka can discourage enemies, so it can break their leadership. And Blizzard is just a souped up pit of shades. So any of those spells can be decent, depending on what you want, but the real power of the Ice Witch is that she's very cheap, and you can go wider with the rest of your army. Kastalton is tanky. He's your tanky hero. He heals himself when he gets low on HP, and he has these...
He has what? Your mic cut out for that one. Pango! We lost the penguin.
So if you just want a lord that's harder to stop...
Hi.
Oh no, I'm here.
Yeah,
My game crashed.
We lost you for a bit on the mic right when you started talking about Gestalten, so we didn't catch anything.
Okay. Well, cool, because I didn't have much to say about Kastalton. He's just tanky.
Thank you.
He heals himself when he gets low on HP, and he has all the buffs and healing effects of a normal Patriarch. So if you just don't want your lord to die, he's good at not dying.
Gotcha.
The Tsarina is just a souped-up Ice Witch. She has the Frost Fang, which is a decent aura attack, and she can be put on a her chariot mount, which can be very annoying to deal with, and can cut through infantry very well. But she is very expensive on that mount, so if you want to go wide, you can't bring her. Now, her and the Ice Witch both have the Frost Worm, which can be an okay melee combatant. But again, it is expensive, and you won't be able to go as wide if you do bring that.
Mm-hmm.
All right, I'm hopping back in.
We got Boris and
All right,
Mama
we're back. Boris I sort of touched on with the Boyar. He's got anti-large on top of his bear Erskine. He's a very strong melee combatant. His Shard Blade and Colossal Strike can make him like extremely formidable, especially against large targets. But he is very expensive. He does really, really want some healing to come with him, which means bringing a Patriarch with, say, Lex Lullaby as well. And you still need a caster, so you're going to be paying a lot of money just for bringing Boris. He is very nice, but that extra cost makes him very niche in matchups. And Mama O used to be very oppressive back when she first came out. She has some healing, she has a ranged attack, and she's on a chariot. But the reason you don't see her that much anymore is because she is very expensive. And the lore that she brings is the lore of hags, which is just a very underwhelming lore of magic. So if she ever is good again, whichever lore or whichever spell from the lore of hags is the best spell, you can bring that. You can bring the Gulias if you want for some healing, and she's just a mobile chariot that can use her ranged attack to deal damage to infantry.
Okay.
And for heroes, the Patriarch I touched on with Boris. He is a buff hero. His best buff by a long shot is Salix Lullaby. It's a healing that you can use 3 times throughout the battle. It's a huge heal every time you use it. But the rest of his abilities are somewhat underwhelming. Tor's Battle Hymn can be good for melee attack. The Vigor Reduction is... You can see it on the stats now, so it feels better to use now than it used to, but it's still a little underwhelming, and the Urson's Roar, the charge, is just not great. Ever since he's had his passive healing removed, you see him a lot less. The Frost Maiden is just a spellcaster hero. Bring her if you're bringing a not spellcasting lord. And the Hag Witch is your other spellcasting option. They give you access to new lores of magic, shadows, beasts, and death. The problem with them is that they're very expensive because you're also paying for their shooting. The only interesting thing with this is that all of them have a different ability. Of those abilities, the best one by a lot is the Lore of Beast Hag. She can summon a unit of things in the woods. So that can be a little interesting. But generally you don't see them because, again, they're very expensive. And then you got Gotrek, Felix, Ulrico. We've talked about them before. They're not really seen on this roster, but if you wanted a goon squad, you can bring some of them. The Golden Knight is their other legendary hero. She can guard your characters decently well, and she's an okay melee combatant herself. Her big thing, though, is that she has the silence aura around her. So if you can get her near enemy spellcasters, she can silence them. She is, again, and this is going to be a theme for the entire roster if you haven't noticed already, very expensive, and that's why you're not going to see her too often. And now, getting into their actual units, and the reason why those expensive lords and heroes aren't being seen is because the cheapest infantry option that you have is a Kislevite warrior. It's 525 gold, which is not cheap compared to a lot of these rosters, but they're okay. They have decent melee defense. They have bonus versus large and armor piercing. Their problem is that they have low armor and are very susceptible to missile fire for their price. But you will see these guys because they're the cheapest frontline option that Kislev has. But their best frontline option, cost efficiency wise, is armored Kossars. These guys have heavy armor, and their big power is that they have pistols, so they will shoot before getting into melee combat. You can use them as kind of a uh, poke into softer enemy targets before you have to fight them, or if you want to have multiple lines of combat, you can try to get as many pistol shots off as possible before engaging them in melee. The shield variant is much better than the great weapon variant currently because the extra melee defense makes them hold longer, and the great weapon just has armor piercing and a slightly higher charge bonus. Watchmen of the Night is really interesting. They trade their pistols for, they're an ROR unit. They trade their pistols for dual weapons and frostbite attacks. The big thing about these guys that's interesting is that they have a ton of melee defense compared to most dual weapon infantry, but they are pretty expensive and they're not usually worth bringing unless you're expecting a lot of enemy light infantry. Zargard are just great holding unit. They're basically Marauder champions for Kislev, but you're paying 1,000 gold for it, so you get what you pay for. On to missile infantry. These are the guys that you're going to win the game with. You have your pistols in your front line, you have your archers and guns in your back line. And that's the bread and butter of a good Kislev build, is just going as wide with these two as possible. Basic Kossars, both spear and sword variant, are just archer units. Decent price. The spear variant can defend themselves better against cavalry charges. The axe variant is cheaper and fights slightly better versus infantry. Akshina ambushers, after their nerfs, they used to have armor piercing, which was very overpowered, but now they are just a decent crossbow unit. They're similar to the Empire Huntsmen. They have stalk, so they can't be spotted before they start getting their shots off, which can be very good. So if you want to sneak up on people, these are the guys that you want. And they deal okay damage. 23 missile strength is not the worst thing in the world. And their missile strength is it's 28. So it's 18 base, 10 armor piercing. It's just that their reload skill is very low. So that's why their missile strength lies to you a little bit. They actually hit harder than that. Streltsy are they're like the real punch unit of your backline. They are just handgunners, except that they have 70 armor and okay melee stats. So even if they get jumped by somebody, they are stalwart enough to fight them off. And their handguns they pack a lot of punch and they pack it very quickly. So you're going to want to bring a lot of these guys, at least on the current patch. And at least 2.
No! We lost Darth Pengu again. Alright, I'll stall till he gets back.
Probably 3 in your backline. But
Wow. Did you drop again?
Did I drop again?
I stopped hearing you, but I don't see you leaving the lobby this time.
I didn't leave the lobby this time.
Alright, the last thing we heard from you is on the current patch, you probably want to take 2 Streltsy.
Okay. Yes. You want to take 2 Streltsy because they deal a lot of damage. And they're really stalwart. They can fend for themselves. And they pack a ton of punch. And that was all I had to say about the Streltsy. That was pretty much all you missed.
Nice.
Ice Guard are weird because they have the most range of anyone on the roster. And they've got good stats across the board, but they have a low model count, not great armor, and they're expensive. 1,000 gold for a unit that doesn't have armor piercing in its range attacks is just really hard to justify.
I always forget they don't have armor piercing ranged.
No, yeah, they're not Sisters of Averlorn.
I just kind of assumed they're Sisters of Averlorn.
Yeah, if they were Sisters of Averlorn, you'd be seeing a lot more of these because they have magic, frostbite, and bonus versus infantry are large with armor piercing if you take the glaives in melee. They have immune to psychology, they have a spell resistance. Like on paper, these guys have everything. It's just that they don't have armor piercing, and you're paying an incredible amount of money to a unit that just dies instantly if it gets burning headed or if it gets attacked by anything. Like, if this gets hit by a mortar, you feel it.
Gotcha.
And then their RORs are both the Streltsy ROR and the Akshina Ambusher ROR are interesting because the Streltsy one is a shotgun unit. So this is just like blunderbusses from Chaos Dwarves or the Iron Hail Gunners from Grand Cathay. They deal so much damage from close range. You can use these guys to clear out harpies, keep any infantry from getting too close to your that gets into your gun line. You can just blow them away instantly with this unit. And actually, the Wolfhearts, the Akshina Ambusher RR, has a 3-time use net. Now, this net has been nerfed. It only lasts 10 seconds now. And it only has an 100 range, which is not great, which is why you don't see these guys all the time anymore, but it is still, it can be very good, and if you net a unit in the wrong spot, you can turn all your guns to shoot it and just instantly annihilate an enemy unit. And then the cavalry. So this is the other staple unit of Kislev. If you have shooting and you have cavalry. So the dervishes have been very good for very long, but now they've eaten a ton of nerfs. And these nerfs, again, have come in the form of price nerfs. So they used to cost 450 gold, and they were incredible at that. Now they're 525, which is a lot. Their big power, and the big power of the entire Kislev roster that I haven't really touched on yet, but we can do it here because this is the unit that benefits from it the most, is their passive. So all human Kislev units have the Buy Our Blood passive. So once they start wavering, they become unbreakable for 25 seconds. And that, for dervishes, the reason it was so powerful is because you can dive backline units, and you don't care about them dying because they will get onto enemy range units and disrupt them, and they'll pop this Buy Our Blood passive, and even if they are all dying, they will still be stopping you from shooting. At 450 gold, that tactic was incredible. At 525 gold, that feels a lot worse.
And Buy Our Blood got 5 seconds reduced, right?
Yeah, I believe so. I think it used to be 30 seconds, but I mean, either way, it feels so long.
It does feel quite long, but I will say getting a sixth of the time taken off was significant. I've noticed Kislev feels a lot less annoying with that, where it's like, oh, okay, Buy Our Blood pops, but it'll wear off soon. I don't know why, but like, I guess saying a sixth of the time does actually feel like a lot.
Yeah, that does make it sound like a lot longer, honestly. But the dervishes are like the biggest loser of those changes. They're still pretty good. They're still effective light cav unit, and having Buy Our Blood does make them like a lot better than things like mounted yeomen on the Britannian roster because they won't rout immediately. But you have to be more careful with these guys. Winged Lancers and Griffin Legion. So Griffin Legion.
Before you hop into that, I thought Winged Lancers were the biggest losers of the cost increases because I know you're going to get into Glorious Charge, but like personally, I would prefer not having Glorious Charge and having 850 heavy cav.
Oh yeah, I was definitely going to touch on that because I was going to say the Koslevite Dervishes are the biggest loser of the like most recent price nerf and the Buy Our Blood nerf. Winged Lancers are the biggest losers of the price increase because they got Glorious Charge, which is crazy strong. Glorious Charge is on the Winged Lancers, the Griffin Legion, and is that all of them, or I think that's all the units that have
I
Glorious
thought,
Charge.
does
I think
Boris have it?
who is it? The Golden Knight has Glorious Charge, maybe?
Boris Ursus also has it.
Yeah. But these two units are the ones that have Glorious Charge, and you'll see it on the Royal Altdorf Graphite as well on the Empire roster. And it is crazy strong. It makes it so that you always deal the leadership damage of flanking, which is good at breaking units. But the big thing is that the charge bonus duration is doubled. So the duration that units are hitting at their charge bonus melee attack is doubled. So as long as you're cycle charging, these guys are going to be dealing a lot more damage than any other cavalry in the game. That being said, this unit, the Winged Lancers being 1,000 gold unit is ridiculous. This is not. It's a good unit. It is a unit that you're going to have to take because you need cavalry to win the game as Kislev. But they used to cost 850 gold and not have Glorious Charge, and they were fantastic at that. They're similar to Empire Knights. They have lower armor, a higher charge bonus. So they're just higher DPS Empire Knights, and the Buy Our Blood is really good for them holding the line. Now, you have to use them more aggressively. You have to be more. You can't use them as a roadblock unit because they're just too expensive to be wasting as a roadblock. And Griffin Legion are just a souped up version. They're better in every way than the Winged Lancer. You're just paying more for it. So you get what you pay for with the Griffin Legion. If you have extra money left over when you're building your cavalry force, just throw in some Griffin Legion. Warbear Riders are just really strong anti-large unit. Monstrous cavalry, anti-large. Anytime that you want to fight big enemy cavalry units, factions, or big monsters, these guys are the ones for you. And the Oath Brothers of Tor, their ROR, have this really, really strong bombard effect. The bombard does like 0 damage, but the big thing that it does is it blinds all units around them. So they get a melee defense, melee attack debuff that makes it so that these guys will just win melees that they would otherwise struggle in.
And the duration of that is false. It says 10 seconds for the blind, but the duration of the bombardment is 7 seconds. So really, you usually have about 15 seconds blinded because first bolt will hit, and then the final bolt will hit, and then it's 10 seconds.
Yeah, so yes. You're right. I didn't actually think about that, but you are right.
It's the longest blind in the game, technically.
Yeah, and this is the perfect unit to be. It blinds everyone around them, so throw them into a pocket of units and blind all of them and just keep them in melee. This unit can punch up.
They're pretty great. Pretty sure he's going to reappear in a second.
Very often, because the reason you don't see any of these super expensive units very often is because if you bring a big expensive cavalry piece or a big expensive monster, you want healing for it, and if you bring healing for it, that means that you're spending money on both the monster and the healing and a caster, and then the rest, your missile infantry and the rest of your cavalry force starts to become very anemic.
Yeah. Patriarchs aren't cheap. I think with like your base kit to even just get Celiax and a horse.
750.
You're 750. That's a lot.
Yeah. For a hero that does he's a terrible melee combatant.
He's a terrible melee combatant.
That's his big problem with the Patriarch, to go back to the heroes list, is that he's just terrible at melee. You have to keep him away from the fighting, and then pop in to say Lullaby people. He'll just He's only got 3,000. He's got just under 4,000 HP on his horse, even, and his combat stats are miserable. Not great armor. He's a great healer, but that's all he does.
That's
But
all.
going back to where we were, missile, cavalry, and chariots. So these used to be super impressive when the game first came out. The war sleds. I'm gonna skip the archers for now. The horse archers, they're just 360 shooting horse archers. They have by our blood. They're pretty solid. Anytime that any other horse archer unit in the game is pretty similar to this, you're just paying a little bit more because they're 600 gold. So you're paying as much as an Illyrian Reaver archer, and this is not as good as an Illyrian Reaver archer, but they are slightly better at diving units because of the by our blood passive.
Gotcha.
War sleds, so light and heavy war sleds they're pretty similar. Heavy war sleds are just you pay more for better unit, more armor, more charge bonus, more health. They used to be extremely oppressive. They're still a very solid chariot. They do a ton of damage against infantry. They have shooting from gunfire on the back, which can deal decent damage to enemy cavalry or single entities. They are extraordinarily expensive though now at 1450 gold for a single one of them. You don't see them very often because of that price, but they are still pretty good if you aren't, or if you're expecting your opponent to have a bunch of infantry. They can get bogged down by cavalry now, and their models are easier to hit because the big problem with them before is that their models were just hard for melee units to hit. That's been fixed, so they do actually get hit in melee now, which means that they're a lot weaker than they used to be. Not a bad thing, though. They're monsters and beasts. This section has gotten a lot bigger over DLCs, but snow leopards are a solid anti-large fighter. They're specifically built for fighting single entities. So in land battles, they're hard to bring. You mostly see them as the ice witch lord can summon a snow leopard, but bring them as an individual unit. They're good at taking out single entity targets. They're not the best single entity duelist because they only have 3,000 HP, but if they can jump a caster or if they can fight a monster like a giant that has been surrounded by your infantry, they can come in and deal some serious damage. Things in the Woods, another unit that has eaten price nerfs and nerfs. They're very strong anti-infantry monster. They have low armor, but they do make up for that with some fizz resist, and they're fast. Their attack animations are actually really good, and they can dish out some serious damage very quickly. You just have to be... You don't want to leave them in melee too long, because they're low armor and will eventually catch up to them. The Mordheim Beowulfs, which is their ROR, has the really unique ability to completely stop healing. So fire can have healing. These guys, if they hit a unit, it can't heal at all, which can be very annoying for some factions. If you catch a lord that needs to be regrowth, would surrounded by these guys, or if even a single model runs in and hits them as they get regrowth, they will receive no healing from the regrowth. It's pretty crazy. It's not super well visually shown that the unit has been affected by the dark blood, is what it's called, which can be really annoying for your opponent, but that is one thing that I would say that this unit should have, is that being affected by Dark Blood should have a better visual for your opponent so that you can tell that they've actually can't heal it. But regardless, moving on. Frostworms, I touched on this when I was talking about their mounts option as the Ice Switch or for the Tsarina. As a mount, this unit is quite good. It has anti-large armor piercing and frostbite attacks. As a individual unit, it is pretty bad. It is very expensive. It's not as tanky as its stats would suggest because it's got low melee defense and only 8,000 HP. Its attack animations can keep it alive longer because it swims in the ground and does weird movement that makes it hard to shoot sometimes. But it can die very quickly if it gets surrounded by spears. So if you're going to bring this, bring it as a mount for your Ice Witch or Tsarina. Don't leave the base unit at home. Elemental bears are unfortunately kind of bad. Low stats means that it can tend to get hit by everything. It's an okay infantry clearer, but its animations aren't that impressive, so it can't leave through infantry formations. And its breath attack is not great. And the incarnate elemental of beast. So this has a mortis engine, and it can lower nearby enemies' leadership, but it is a very squishy monster. If you're expecting enemies to have ranged attacks, avoid bringing this because it can die very quickly to enemy ranged fire. But if you can keep it alive in a blob, its mortis engine effect will drain everything down. The problem with all three of these single entity monsters is if you bring them, you're going to want to bring a Patriarch, and we talked about how the healing is you're bringing a bad hero to heal only mid single entities. And the ROR Elemental Bear can cast a spell around it, Heart of Winter, which the interesting thing with that is that the spell normally can't move, and this can move the spell. So if you want to chase down a blob with it, you can deal some serious damage with it, but you only get one use, so it's only okay. And then, the final unit on the roster, the only artillery and war machine that Kislev has, Little Grom. It's okay. It is a pretty accurate cannon. It's a single entity and it moves around. So you can sort of fight and kite with it. It is very slow, so it's not going to be able to run away by itself, but if you screen it with cavalry and infantry, you can constantly move it back throughout the battle. And it can sort of dodge enemy cannon fire. It packs a serious punch, especially against large targets with its shot. And in melee, it's terrible. It does say that it has a bonus versus infantry with armor piercing attacks, but avoid melee with this thing. It's just a decent.
We lost them, but it's a decent ranged kite tool, decent artillery dueling. Really good Lord sniping, actually, if Lord's not infantry sized. What up?
Yes.
We lost you briefly. I filled in because I am a little Grom expert.
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah. But damn, missed all of my secret tech on the Little Grom.
The secret, like the flying taco Eshin Maneater tech we discussed before we started recording.
Yeah, exactly like that.
Exactly like that.
The only even sort of tech that you can have with this is that Gust of True Flight, a spell on the Lore of Tempest, can increase the range of Little Grom so that it can outrange enemy artillery pieces.
Ah.
That's the secret tech. It's not usually very useful, but if you are very afraid of enemies' cannons, then you can sit it way in the back and Gust of True Flight it, and then it'll increase its accuracy and range so that it can take them out from a range.
So, I have a prior engagement to get to in 6 minutes. We have to do
6 minutes, all right.
We have to do our due diligence. I'm going to propose 2 matchups on the current patch. If you could discuss what build you would take and why. Let's start with Vampire Counts. Vampire Counts versus Kislev on patch 6.0. What you doing?
So for any basic Kislev build, I'm gonna do a lot of ranged units. Against the Vampire Counts, you have to worry about their flyers and their cavalry. So I'm gonna bring a super basic caster. I'm gonna put her on a horse to give her a little bit more HP in case they have Manfred giving her spirit leeches. And I'm going to strip her of everything. Just bringing Ice Maiden's Kiss to clear out some zombies. Then I'm going to bring... First, I'll start with the infantry. I'm going to bring at least 3 Kossars and bring some archers for shooting, a couple Streltsy for clearing out any backline flyers. And I like to go with a couple infantry here just to block up the front line. A couple more shooting units because I'm going to try to max out all of my shooting. But I've only got 4,000 gold, so let's get some cavalry to at least stop up any infantry or any enemy cavalry. We're going to want to charge them if they try to break into my lines. And let's get one more of that and then one more archer. So something like this. And I brought a Griffin Legion here just because I had 1250 as opposed to 1,000, but you can bring like a Winged Lancer if you wanted.
Okay, it's a pretty wide build, lots of shooting, decent cav options. What about the Skaven?
Skaven, alright, so I'm going to try to break into the Skaven lines. So we're going to stick with... This time I'm going to bring Death Frost because I want to Spirit Leech down the Skaven Lord, because if I can kill the enemy Lord, I can win by just breaking the morale of the Skaven. I'm going to bring Arcane Conduit this time because this is a more expensive spell than Ice Maiden's Kiss, so I want to get that mana up. And infantry is not going to matter that much versus the Skaven, so I'm going to bring just a couple basic warriors, anything that can get through. And the big thing that you're going to want this time is you're going to dive backline. So I'm going to go really wide with cavalry force. I'm going to bring a decent number of archers here. And then if you want, you can bring a Source of Terror. I could even bring her on a Frostworm. I'm going to avoid doing that. You can, if you would like to bring her on a Frostworm to add terror to your army. I don't like doing that just because I'm afraid of the... What is the spell called?
Cleansing Ruin.
Cleansing Ruin. It is very good at targeting down your lords. Can deal a ton of damage to them, so I like to have my lord on the outside of and pressing in everywhere with cavalry. So something like this. Or I'm just going to have Spear and Bow Kossars come surrounding the Skaven. I'm going to press in with the infantry, and I'm going to surround the entire Skaven army with cavalry and try to collapse in on it.
So here's the thing. Grab Crystal Sanctuary and the Crystal Cloak. And whenever they cast Cleansing Ruin on you, if you cast Crystal Sanctuary, that and the Crystal Cloak will last about the whole duration, giving you 100% damage resistance.
That is the most niche and hilarious tech of all time. That, if you don't know, that's the Crystal Cloak is Zarhina Katarin's ability that when she casts a spell, she gains 20% damage resistance.
It lasts 31 seconds. I mean,
it does, and the Crystal Cloak lasts 35 seconds. Now the problem with that is you can't move during that duration.
But you're literally invincible, so who gives a shit?
That is hilarious tech. I don't know if I'll ever use that, but that would be very funny if you just laugh at their Cleansing Ruin.
Nice 24 winds of magic, nerd.
Is it 24 to overcast it?
Yeah.
Oh my word.
You just spent 12 to get 100% damage resistance.
Wow, that's a flex right there.
That requires a lot of micro, and then you gotta use your own winds of magic. But it's funny.
Totally worth. You pull it off even once, you look so cool.
You look so badass.
That is true, though. Zarina is a really solid pick into Skaven because of the Crystal Cloak. I didn't even think about that. You had just added to my tech.
Hell yeah. Dude, what about... I'm just thinking, like, of big flexes. Elspeth von Draken uses her breath attack, and you're like, nah. You just shut it down.
Ride forward for the sole purpose of baiting out the breath attack.
Hold on, I have to see it now. I just have to see it. I'm gonna take Elspeth. I'm curious if that works, because, like, on paper, it says 100% damage resistance. Carmine Dragon, Spirit Leech, but everything else is fine. Alright, I'm just gonna breath attack you.
Oh, no, it's... Okay, let's do it. Chris...
If you take
Oh, shit! Oh! Okay.
What?
I accidentally took off the crystalline cloak because I just always take it off.
That would be against the point. So, like, I call this a failure if you take a single point of damage.
A single point? Alright.
Because 80
I don't
plus
even know
20
how long
is 100, damn it.
How long does it take for the spell to cast?
I don't know, but you have 30 seconds, so I'll wait till I see it before I start my Dragon Breath. I have fast enough reaction times to get off a Dragon Breath in 30 seconds. Though I suppose if you're thinking, can you reactively Crystal Cloak to stop the Dragon Breath attack?
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking of.
We'll find out.
Do you have to, like, preemptively use Crystalline Cloak for the Dragon Breath attack?
Yes, probably. We'll find out how long the cast time is, but also, like, it's kind of obvious when someone's coming to breath attack you, to be real.
That's true, but if they see the Crystalline Cloak come down, do they just go like, nah? Or they like, what does that spell do again?
I think, unless this becomes meta, I think no one is going to remember that that's a possibility.
If this becomes meta, then that would be the most glorious meta.
Crystalline Cloak. Same with that Luminarch. I was playing, while we load in, I was playing Pigman, and I hid my Slaughtermaster in the forest, because he was trying to Templehoff and Elspeth snipe him. And the Templehoff curved through all of the trees and hit his ass anyway.
Nice.
Maybe so sad.
Wait, overcasting Crystalline Sanctuary makes it AoE. And increases its... No, it doesn't increase its duration. It just makes it...
Does it net everyone in there, or does it just net Zarina?
We are the clenched fist of Nome, by blade and bullet.
All right, let's see it.
Magic and might.
AoE. Casting. It's a 5-second cast time.
That takes a bit.
Alright.
100% ward save?
What is this? She took over 100 damage. She took 200 damage.
It says 100% ward save. CA, how do you math? I do want to see how much the Spirit Leech does. So you were at 4,100 exactly.
Wait, that's dealing like... I mean, it's dealing no damage, but not literally none.
It's dealing 4 or 5 damage a tick. That's fucked up.
Yeah, that's straight cheating. I feel
That's-
like I got... That HP is straight robbed.
That's it. I'm flying into Streltsy. I'm done with this. Take me, Dark Gods! Must get to them. Slow. Dragon.
Oh, man. Making us really wait for it.
Hey, I hit fast forward.
Wow.
You're the one being
I thought
silly.
that she would... Oh, sorry.
I landed.
Wow. I can't believe she made it.
Fuck your ranged units. I'm gonna die. Why won't I break? There we go. Okay.
Elspeth is too strong.
She's too strong. I was surprised how long it took your Streltsy to shoot at a dragon flying straight at them.
Yeah, I'm surprised that they did so little damage. I mean, I guess they got like 600 damage value in one volley, which is pretty good, but still.
It's pretty good. Yeah.
My archers just missed though.
That's classic archers. On this patch, I've learned that my win rate is much higher when I just go full melee instead of trying to do my usual 12 ranged kite. Like Vampire Coast, I used to just take 12 ranged units and try and shoot anybody who came at me, and that stopped working, so now I do like 7 ranged units and a bunch of animated hulks.
Oh, but having just all the ranged units is so much fun.
It is so much fun, and if CA would increase their damned responsiveness, then it could be great again. They don't need more damage, they need to spend less time shuffling around.
Yeah, especially I don't know with the missile cavalry, like the 360 shooting stuff, especially where they do the little Congo line.
Yeah,
and then
do that
they
all the time.
all ball together and then break into a formation. I don't know what that's all about.
It's terrible. And I will complain about it until I die. Or until they fix it. Hopefully they fix it before I die.
Before you die?
They have like 3 days. But, you know who doesn't have 3 days? Blood Penguin. Hey, you have a great night, sir. I need to leave. I have friends messaging me saying, where are you for a weekly game night? And I'm saying, go to hell, I'm making YouTube videos. And they say, what's YouTube? Because I'm old now. Goodbye, everyone.
Oh, man. All right. Bye.
Subscribe, yes.